Okay. So I think most of you were in my last presentation. I'm Molly Johnson, in case we have not connected yet. And I am an autism consultant, a former special ed teacher, and I kind of came into this role as an autism consultant on accident. I was very into listening to podcasts, and I listened to them on the way to work, on the way home, when I went on walks. And I thought, I have a lot to say. Like, I want to talk. And my students' parents, when I go home in the evening, they're texting me and they're saying, hey, you worked on this in class with Johnny. How do we work on the same thing at home? Or, hey, you want to potty train? And if we tag team this together, it'll happen faster. So I had a lot, it was outside of school hours, I was doing a lot of what I felt like was consulting with my students' parents. And I thought, okay, if I start a podcast and just give tips and tricks on skill development and behavior, if only one parent listens, I'm happy about that because I'll be doing something I like. And it just kind of took off, and lo and behold, a lot of parents wanted to learn more about how to support their child. So that's how the autism consultant became a thing. If you guys don't know, I do have free resources for you. I have a podcast with hundreds of episodes, potty training, behaviors, skill development, communication. I bring in guest experts. Anything you can think of, any topic under the sun, there's probably an episode there, but it's completely free. Along with my social media, that is free as well. I try to just give very simple, to the point, bite-sized chunks that you can take away and implement with your child. Okay. So what are visual supports? You've probably seen these on social media and Pinterest. Your child's probably using them at whatever therapy they attend or whatever school they attend. So you probably have a little background knowledge of these visual supports, but they're basically what it says. It is some type of visual, something you can see, a symbol, a picture, an object, and they are there, they are used as tools to support your child in some way, whether that's with understanding, with communication, with executive functioning skills, with independence, with task completion, whatever it may be. So it is simply just presenting information in a different way to your child to help them be more successful in this world. There are a few examples for you. So just to show you, if you're not familiar with visuals, this first one is a visual schedule where it outlines a routine for a child. This middle one is a communication board. And I'm going to show you different examples as I go on, but these can be changed and adapted to any child and their needs and their preferences. So just because you see something on here, this is not set in stone. We change these to make them work for each child. This last one on the right, this is called a task analysis. You take a task or an activity, you break it down step by step with a picture and a brief description of what each step is. Because something like taking a bath, it sounds simple, it sounds like one step, but it's not. It's a multi-step process. So these are just a few examples of what I'm going to be talking about today. So, it is a common misconception that visual supports are solely used for non-speaking children. I hear this all the time. No, my child doesn't need to use those. He speaks. I say, well, that's wonderful that he speaks, but we use visuals for actually a lot more than just communication. Is providing a way to have that back and forth communication a benefit? 100%. But there are so many other benefits than just communication. I'll go over those benefits in a few slides. But even if your child is speaking, I highly recommend you explore using visual supports to help in other areas, to help support your child in other areas. I also hear this one a lot, where parents will say, yeah, they look pretty, they look great, but I don't want my child to become dependent on visuals. But here's the thing, they're probably dependent on you, or teachers, or therapists. They're probably dependent on that person to complete XYZ skill or task or whatever part of their routine. And the great thing about visual supports is it still supports that child. It allows the adult to slowly fade out of the equation. And that's what we want, because I don't want to have to stand over a child's shoulder 24/7 and help them with XYZ skill. And you don't either, because the reality is your child's going to get older. And at some point, maybe they realize, "Ooh, I don't want mom standing next to me to help with every single thing." Maybe they start to see their peers don't have their mom or their teacher right by them with everything. Maybe they get a little embarrassed. Or, you parents, we're not always available 24/7. A visual support that I'm going to talk about today, they're available 24/7. That visual support doesn't have to say, "Hey, hang on, honey, let me go answer the phone." That visual support is always available. Also, I hate to be a Debbie Downer and say this, but we as parents are not always going to be here for these children to support them until the end of time. At some point, we are not going to physically be in this world, so we need to think about how are we going to set them up for independence, but still be supported in some way, and that's what these visual supports do. Okay, this is a very, very, very short list of visual supports. The benefits of using visual supports. Of course, we're going to talk about how they improve behavior today. They're also permanent. The words that I'm saying to you right now, the second they leave my mouth, they're gone for good. You can't refer back to them. You can't go back and well, unless you ask me to repeat something, I will, I promise. But they leave my mouth and they go away forever. A visual support, these stay here as long as the child needs to reflect on them and use them as support. They have no attitude. I might be so fed up by the end of the day, my bucket is full, I'm so stressed as a working mom, and I snap. I have a nasty tone when I maybe tell my daughter something at 8 p.m. at night. Visual supports, no attitude, which means less likely to have that power struggle back and forth, because guess what? Kids match attitudes. So if I give it, I better expect to receive it as well. Visual supports, we don't have this. We don't have that. They also reduce anxiety. We are providing predictability with these visual supports. We're preparing a child to know what to expect. There are no surprises, or we're taking away the element of surprise. So we're able to lower the anxiety for that child. The visual supports, they help process language. We are presenting what we are communicating in a different form for that child. It also provides a way for back and forth communication. Even kids that are verbally speaking, if they are escalating with their frustrations and their behaviors, it's not uncommon for an autistic verbally speaking child to have a harder time communicating their needs and wants when that frustration has escalated. Visual supports are a great tool to help facilitate that back and forth communication. They also improve understanding. It is very likely if your child is autistic that they are a visual learner, meaning they have an easier time processing and understanding and responding to those things that they see visually rather than verbally. Where am I? They increase participation. So we're able to break down tasks and routines and skills in a way where we're presenting information that feels a little more manageable. We are organizing the information in order for them, so we're helping with some of those executive functioning skills. Like I said earlier, we are able to, with these visual supports, fade out that adult support. So many of you probably have other children where you can't stand next to your one child and support them all day long. You need something in play, kind of to take your place to still support your child, so you can fade out and do everything else that mom and dad have to do. Where's my visual schedule? So right now, think of I don't have a morning routine, but think about a morning routine. You might be standing over your child's shoulder saying, okay, get dressed. Now let's go sit at the breakfast table. Now let's go brush your teeth. And you're over their shoulder telling them everything. But if you had a visual schedule that communicated the same expectations in the same exact order, so it's interactive, it keeps them on track, that can help moms step out of that morning routine and do everything else that moms have to do, which is a lot, as you all know. They provide predictability, like I said a few minutes ago. When we give information in the visual support, we are taking away the element of surprise. So for kids who dislike changes, they're very resistant and fearful of changes. Well, if they have a visual support that tells them, hey, it's coming up, we're lowering that fear, we're lowering that anxiety. And you can do this, you can get really creative with visual support. So this is a weekly visual schedule. Let's say you're going out of town. You're going to stay at a hotel, your child does not like changes or they're resistant to changes. Or, like I just talked to a parent, they went out of town for a few days and their son regressed with potty training. And that's very common. Anytime a child regresses with some skill, I say, what happened in the last month that was a change, a major change in their routine that they were not prepared for? And they'll say, yep, we did blah, blah, blah. Mom went out of town, or we went on vacation. So something as simple as a visual support that shows Sunday and Monday we're home, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we're at a hotel, today's Tuesday, okay, we're getting closer to going back home. Even just showing that predictability of, yes, something's different, but we're going back to our norm, that can really lower anxiety. And all of these end up playing a role in behavior because, as you all know, behavior is so much bigger than what meets the eye. There's so many underlying issues of behavior. Another great benefit is it builds confidence. Kids are able to accomplish more and see their accomplishments, and they're able to have they're able to work on these skills that feel manageable. So they're able to show up and actually feel like they can attempt to engage in some new skill or some new activity, and we're helping build confidence. I love this one. They provide structure and routine, which is so incredibly important. And when I was doing the potty training session earlier this morning, parents were asking about something happening at school and something happening at home. Kids making more progress with potty training at school versus home. And that's a lot of it, is the structure and routine. Especially autistic children thrive with that structure and routine. And you might not have that structured of a house. I know I do right now. Some days feel chaotic, but with a visual schedule, a simple support like a visual schedule can provide some of that structure and routine. And when we get that in place, we are able to work on so many more skills and behaviors. They encourage independence. To me, that's the goal. Anything we work on, I want to think, how do I exit from this equation? How do we set this child up for independence and success on their own? They provide more opportunities to interact with others. Think about the world and how many times your day, how many times you interact with others. You're talking to people probably a lot throughout the day, and we want to provide ways to get your child comfortable and used to interacting with those within their environment, and to kind of take away that seclusion piece of autism, because a lot of people, they don't know how to interact with an autistic kid. They're standoffish. But if we, someone was talking earlier about peer mentors. I was a teacher, a former special ed teacher, and we had peer mentors in our class one year, and it was amazing to see this back and forth communication with my students and these other kids, and it just provides, it closes the gap between that child and everybody else in the community. Let's see, it supports executive functioning differences. So executive functioning skills, that's a fancy word for brain management tools. We all have executive functioning skills. It's things like, planning things out in your head. Like this morning when I woke up, I had to plan out, okay, I need to take a shower, then do my makeup and hair and get dressed, and I need to be downstairs by this time. Well, my brain can organize all those steps in the correct order, and I can initiate every single step and do it in a timely manner. But somebody with executive functioning differences, they really struggle with those steps. And so visual supports can help. They also help with time blindness. That is very common with kids with executive functioning differences. This is all a mouthful sometimes. But time blindness is where a child truly lives in this moment and they cannot see past it. So if your child hates taking a bath and it is like fighting them, you're like wrestling an alligator every night, maybe they have time blindness because of their executive functioning differences, where they truly live in this one moment and they cannot see past it. So they truly think bath time is lasting forever, enter the infinity symbol here in your child's brain. And you and I think that's ridiculous. We never take a bath until the end of time. It ends every night after like 20 minutes. But for a child with time blindness, it is very real. So something like a visual schedule would be great to show we get to move on to something else. And I'm going to pull these up and show more examples in a minute. I just wanted you to see the list of benefits. They help expectations feel manageable. We are able to break information down chunk by chunk. You know, if you think about one skill, like even using the bathroom, it is a series of skills. It's a lot of skills. And a lot of executive functioning plays a role in that. But if we are able to break it down, task by task, skill by skill, and help a child get through each little skill in the big skill, that is going to help it feel manageable. They also highlight important information. So if you think about an autistic child with sensory differences, they might walk into a room and focus on and pay attention to everything besides what you want them to accomplish or focus on because of their sensory differences. They might be thinking, this air is freezing, the vent's on over here, I can feel the wind hitting my arm hair. That light is so blinding, oh my gosh, it's giving me a headache. I can hear mom's TV in the other room. So they end up focusing on a lot of other things in their environment, but when we have something like a visual support that is present, it's permanent, it's presenting information in a way that they can digest it, that is helping them focus on the important information that we want them to focus on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about this thing that is in my boat. So my daughter has Down syndrome,
Okay.
and she has autism.
Okay.
And so she's 6, but she's like a 1-year-old.
Okay.
Is she gonna be able to understand these things?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Always presume competence. Yes. In the beginning, they'll be foreign to her. She won't understand, just like anything else you would put in front of her for the very first time. So I am going to talk about how to implement these, but I will say yes, 100%. She can 100% understand these, use these, and incorporate them into her day. Yes. And like I said, that was a small list of benefits. I kind of went on a long time talking about them, but I just want you to know that one visual support, they have a million benefits. That if I were to go back in the classroom to be a self-contained teacher tomorrow, the very first thing I would do, besides working on relationship building, is I would create a visual rich environment for my students. Okay, first up is a visual schedule. Check your time. Okay, I'm going to show you many different examples of visual schedules. So this is similar to the one you see up on the screen, but what it does is it takes a routine and it breaks it down step by step. This does a few things that helps with behavior. Number one, it creates predictability. If my child has a hard time getting dressed in the morning, they're prepared for it, they know it's coming, and they know it's the same day in, day out. That predictability, that routine, that repetition really, really helps with challenging behaviors. It's teaching them to be independent as well. These are interactive. You complete an activity, you move it over. It's similar to a to-do list. We all have to-do lists as adults, or most of us. I wish I didn't have to-do lists. But it feels good to scratch something off, to accomplish something, and move on. It motivates us to keep going. The same thing applies to your child. So I would recommend having some way to have it be interactive. Yours don't have to look like this at all. You can have, let's see, on your refrigerator, you can put all your visuals there for the day where maybe you just snap pictures of your child throughout their day, of them brushing their teeth, and maybe just a picture of their closet to represent getting dressed in the morning. And so maybe you take their routine and you put those pictures, put a magnet on, you put them on the refrigerator, and then maybe you have a basket next to the refrigerator, and you teach them, okay, they're done getting dressed, they take it off and put it in their basket. But I would find a way to make it interactive. I don't want a visual to be a fancy poster we slap up on the wall and we never pay attention to. It's like when we go to the dentist and they have a million posters on the wall. I know there are posters on the wall, but I've never read them. I don't know what they say. They're meaningful because I don't have to interact with them. The same thing applies to your child. But what I would do is, when you start using something like a visual schedule, when you introduce it, there's a teaching period. These are brand spanking new to a child at some point. So we have to teach, and we teach through modeling. So maybe for 2 to 3 days, I'm going through my child's routine with them, and I'm pointing out on the visual schedule, okay, it's time to go potty. We go potty, we engage in that action. Once we're done, I model moving it over to all done. Okay, let's go get our underwear on, let's get our panties on. We do that, then I model moving it over. The reason I want you to take some time to model how to use and interact with these is because if we just set this in front of a child for the first time, they start interacting with it the wrong way. First impressions matter. The first time we interact with something, it's kind of burned in our brain, and we think about that the next time we come in contact with it. So I want the very first interaction to be done correct, to be done the right way. So make sure we're taking the time to model those. Here's some more examples of visual schedules. Now I will say with the visual schedules, see, I showed you 3. And the reason I did this is because, you know, if you think of your daily routine, you probably have you have small routines built into your day. You might have a morning routine, an afternoon, an evening, a bedtime routine. So what I recommend to parents is and your day is pretty much the same from one day to another. Now, Monday through Friday might look slightly different than the weekends because, you know, we don't go to school Monday through Friday. But the day is pretty much the same from day to day. So what I recommend is making one up for your morning, your afternoon, your evening, your bedtime, having those prepared and ready in order so that by the time you're done with this last one for your morning routine, you're not going through your pile of visuals like looking for all these smaller parts to build the next schedule. No, your afternoon routine, visual schedule, it's already made up, it's ready to go. So I do recommend doing that. I'm going to show you this actually. I do hear sometimes, okay, there are a lot of smaller pieces of these that come Velcro it off. My kid's going to take those pieces and chuck them across the room. So you can make your visual schedule look different. And this is with any visual. If your child's not responding to it the way that you wanted them to, it's probably being presented the wrong way. We need to get creative about making some changes. This isn't the best example or the best visual for this example because for the throwing pieces, what I would recommend is before you laminate the big template, you would put on the smaller pieces and like glue them on and then laminate it so it's all in place. So these pieces can't come off. Now it's still interactive, so they can still, like once they're done putting their bra on, they can still be interactive and say, okay, I'm done. This is indicating I'm done. It's time to move on to the next. But my other one I lost that hasn't glued on. So there's an example of that. Let's see. And you can make visual schedules for anything. This is for Halloween. Halloween is something where your routine is going to be a little different than every other day of the year. And it's hard to practice Halloween because that's just not something we can really do. So this visual schedule would show a child our costumes on, we go walking, we ring the doorbell, we go home, we eat candy, providing predictability and helping this child experience more success with these brand new things that are not part of their normal routine. I will say about this, if I was going to use this for Halloween day would not be the first time this child has seen this visual schedule. They use visual schedules like this throughout the day, so they're used to it, they know how it works, they know what to expect. So when I change up the activity cards, they're able to adapt to it better. Now, let me show you some more visual schedules. Okay, like I said, if it's not working for your child, it's because of the way it looks, or it's being presented to the child, most likely. So if a visual schedule with 5 activities on it, your child, they might see that and they might think, no way, I'm not even getting started. Those are too many demands. Those are too many expectations on me. I'm throwing in the towel before I even get started. Maybe they need visual schedules that are smaller and feel more manageable. 2 demands feels a lot more manageable to some kids than 5. So we need to think about, do we need to make this more manageable for this child? Like I showed you this weekly visual schedule, this is great for, think about this the whole week. And it's very confusing for kids that okay, we go to school for 5 days, and then we're just randomly home for 2 days. I just had a mom say, I just overheard a mom say, she tells her kids if they're good Monday through Friday, they don't have to go to school on Saturday and Sunday. And I was like, you know, it is confusing. I'm like, why do we have these 2 random days off? But this is a great way to provide predictability and help the child know what to expect. When they know what to expect, they're able to show up and have less anxiety. When we know what to expect, we're able to ease into things a lot easier. You can use this with anything.
So you just visit the star every day?
Yes. So, let's see what's up. So if, this is the next example I wanted to talk about. If a child goes to like a lot of therapies, so Saturday and Sunday they're home, but Monday they have ABA, Tuesday they go to a doctor, Wednesday just regular school, Thursday speech, Friday OT. That is a jam-packed schedule for that child. It's confusing. And it's, you know, when we have different things we go to every day, it feels a little chaotic, probably. But if we're able to provide predictability and help the child know what to expect, our transitions are going to be a little bit easier. And so the concept is, yes, we put a star on what today is. So maybe this is hung on the refrigerator, and before they go to school in the morning, you're able to remind them or tell them, maybe it's Wednesday morning and it's their job every morning, okay, go move your star Wednesday, so they know that, hey, today I'm nothing, just school. So this is great visual support.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Visual schedules, does it matter? Is it better one way or another if you use kind of the cartoon pictures or if you use actual pictures?
I would say it depends on the child. Most kids are, as long as you are very consistent with what you pair it with. So as long as like the trampoline, you're pairing with the same trampoline every single time, they'll put the two and two together. It's very situational though. I can't say that 100% of kids respond to this. Most do. When I was a teacher, I rarely ever used the real life pictures. I almost always use these. And like I said, if I went back to the classroom today, it'd be the first thing I did is implement all of these visuals. But there are kids who, they need that extra form of motivation because, you know, if they see themselves doing something like brushing their teeth, it shows, hey, I've done it before, I've been successful, I can get through it. And kids sometimes just like seeing themselves in a picture. So I would say, play with both, you know? I will say, if you all want to make ones like these, I make mine on Canva. Has anybody ever heard of Canva?
Yeah.
It's not used for this at all. I got smart and used it for this. So it's Canva. I think it was actually created for like marketing materials and stuff. But I use Canva to make all of my visual supports.
Is it AI?
Is it AI?
Yeah.
I mean, they have AI as part of Canva. Like, AI does something with Canva, but I do nothing with AI. My brain and my technology level is not there.
Use scissors and light makers.
Yes, I'm a little old school. But there are 2 versions, a free and a paid version. You do not need the paid version. I just recently upgraded to the paid, and it's only because it's my job. So I think it is. Okay. Another visual that's going to help with behavior is a communication board. Again, these can look so many different ways. Here is an example of a communication board for trick-or-treating. For a child you can simply just point to what you're trying to communicate. Of course, like I said in the visual schedule, there's a teaching period, lots of modeling needs to be happening. These need to be accessible. I always try to remind people they need to be accessible. If I want you to use this, but you have to go through me to access this, like if it's high up in the cabinet behind the door and I have to get it out for you, that's not accessible. So keep that in mind. Here is a communication board for feelings. This is for if you're hurt. Great story with this communication board. I had a mom who she used this, and she just started dabbling in introducing this to her child. And of course, there's a teaching period, so they would, you know, put different body parts down here to draw attention, and then she'd point out what body part it was, and they'd stand in front of the mirror and point to their head, and hold out the picture, and put the head on their head. And so they just dabbled with introducing this, and she went to the grocery store. Her son had allergies, but he hadn't had a reaction in years. It was, you know, he had allergies, but it was not top of the mind. They're walking around the grocery store. He's acting funny, and he's nonverbal. She couldn't get him to communicate what was going on. Why are you acting funny? His face was turning red. He was like spinning in circles. He was panicky. He was sweating. And she finally realized, oh my gosh, I had downloaded these before I printed them. So she got this picture up on her phone and asked, like, what is it? Tell me, like, point, what is it? And he pointed the one to his neck. He had a nut allergy. And they would buy a section in the grocery store where you could like scoop out nuts and like put it in a bag that you could like weigh and buy. He was having an allergic reaction, so they immediately called 911, got paramedics there, all because of visual support and him simply just pointing got her to realize, oh my gosh, this is a serious moment. So she was able to intervene, call 911. So communication is amazing. Communication boards. You can make this look however you want. This can be your child's favorite foods. Take a picture. You don't even have to take a picture. When you're done with Fruit Loops, cut out the label, cut out the picture of the Fruit Loops, put all these pictures on here, put it somewhere in the kitchen. Give your child a way to communicate with you. And the reason that I love just providing a way to communicate like this is because you are moms and dads, you know what your kid needs and wants. You know what they want probably before they know what they want. You're like one step ahead, they're your kid. But again, your kid's going out into the world around people that don't know what they want, don't know what they need. And we need to set them up for success and give them a way to communicate with others in their environment. We don't want them to be a recluse and never have a way to interact with those in their environment. We have to provide a way to communicate.
I would say too, like, I made a book for my son, bringing it to ABA, because he calls his food like colors. And I wasn't sure if his therapist would understand what he was trying to ask for. And they love it. So like, I don't think we should be afraid to use them, because I think the people working with your child love to be able to use that to help them.
Yeah, and they appreciate it in situations where, like the grocery, when you're like, what is it? Come on, like tell me, because you know, this directly relates to behavior, because behavior is communication. And so, you know, you might see big behaviors from a child, but that's simply because their behaviors are their only way to communicate with you. If you took my voice away, but I had to communicate with you, I would use my behaviors. And so a lot of times we see some challenging behaviors, but if we are able to eliminate that communication barrier, we can help with some of those behaviors. Does anybody want these three? Could anybody benefit? There you go. Okay. And like I said, you can make a communication board out of anything. You can make one for the bathroom and all the words and phrases you say in the bathroom, in the pantry, in their bedroom, anything that makes sense for your child in their day. Social stories are great to help with behavior in those situations that are coming up or could possibly be coming up. Thunderstorms, if your child has a hard time with thunderstorms every time, I'd probably make a social story and just every once in a while, talk about what it looks like, what it sounds like, and more importantly to me, what happens after. We're okay, and the sun comes back out. Yes?
Can I just share a quick success story?
Absolutely.
So I was talking to Molly earlier. I have two sons. They're 31 and 35. So I was doing this before. The 35-year-old is nonverbal, and he never really got very good with the picture symbols. And we tried photographs. But what really did work well with him was social stories. And he was getting in trouble every day at school for going up the slide instead of, the slide part, instead of going up the stairs and going down. He liked to climb on the slide part. And he got in trouble every day. And so we wrote a social story for how we were supposed to go on the slide. And then we went to the playground and we practiced over and over, and we read the story over and over, and we practiced over and over, and we finally
Yeah, and the great thing about a social story is we're able to teach them this new way of doing something like that, or we're able to show them the expectation without asking them to do anything with that expectation yet. They're simply just soaking in the information and the story. They are not the main character. The focus is not on them. So that's really great about social stories. And like I'm showing you, you can use them for anything. Potty training, 4th of July. I mean, you can literally.
Haircuts, I made one for haircuts.
Haircuts, yes. I mean, washing hands, brushing teeth. You can make, and you know, they can look whatever way you want them to look, but you basically want to briefly outline what the expectation is and what it's going to look like when they engage in something or when they come in contact with something. And that is going to be able to lower their anxiety, give them predictability once they're in that situation. And it really, really helps with behaviors. And I will say, if you have a particular behavior you're seeing over and over, and you want them to engage in a different behavior, a replacement behavior instead, that is a great opportunity to show them with the social story that, hey, you're doing this, but here are your options that I want you to be doing. Yes.
Question, when did you do the social story? Is it the moment of,
No.
or the way before?
No, it's proactive. So a social story is for things that you know are a common problem, like having big behaviors with storms, or you know something's coming up, like potty training, or let's say you're going out of town on vacation, like the speakers at lunch just talked about, vacations with their son was a nightmare. And it's because a lot of it is all new, it's unpredictable, new experiences, they don't know what to expect. But if we made a very simple social story where, you know, we all have our phones on us 24/7. Let's say I'm going to stay at the Charlotte Marriott. I'm going to Google Charlotte Marriott. I'm snapping a picture. I have a picture of that. My child's going to be flying on an airplane. And they're going to Charlotte Airport. I'm snapping a picture of where you're like first coming in the doors at Charlotte Airport. I mean, everything's on the internet. So I would be making a social story of everything, the Airbnb or the hotel we stay at. If we're going to, you know, if you're a planner and you map out, okay, we're gonna eat at this place Monday, this place Tuesday, I am going to Google it, take a picture, screenshot it, and put it in my social story that we're going to be eating at Bob Evans for breakfast on Monday. The more they see, the lower their anxiety is once they actually have to interact or experience that thing, whatever it may be. Another great visual support is a choice board. Now I love choice boards because if you think about behavior and frustration and things just escalating, your child might be experiencing big feelings and big behaviors because they have no say, they have no choice. They have no say in how they feel and internalize things sensory-wise. They have no say and no choice in the way they communicate, and that they can't verbally just tell you, I want a snack. They don't have a say. And they see us making choices all day long. You and I, we make thousands of choices a day. You know, from the temperature in our house to which socks we put on, to even which sock we put on first, or right or left. We make thousands in front of our children. And so it's not totally out of the blue for a child to want some form of choice and control and power and say in their day. So if we can incorporate choice boards and give them more say, we might be able to de-escalate a situation. You do not have to use visual supports to incorporate choices. You can incorporate choices all day long, from what they eat for breakfast to which shirt they put on in the morning. It doesn't matter how you present the choices necessarily, but I think choices are a very powerful strategy.
How does it take the child to, you know, I mean, she probably isn't going to be reading I1 and understand that. So how long does it, you have to do it a few times? Like,
See, you don't have to have words on it, but I like words just to promote spelling and reading. I don't think it's ever a bad idea to include words, but that's why there's pictures there, because she can most likely identify pictures. She most likely can identify in the pantry her the label or the box of her favorite snacks.
yeah. But it would
She
be,
probably knows more than we think she does.
after using it a few times, like, she can start to understand what it means, it's choice.
Yes, but only if, so whatever you choose has to be the outcome.
Yeah.
So if you choose silly face, you're modeling silly face. And if you're choosing swing, you're immediately getting her or you on the swing. She needs to see that interacting with this directly correlates to this swing. Consistency, modeling, yes. So as far as how long is it going to take for her to understand and use this on her own, I can't give you an answer, and I won't give you an answer. because every child is different, and the way it's used at home is different. Some parent might use this 5 times a day, another parent might use this 1 time a week. I recommend more rather than less if we want it to be a normal part of the routine. But I promise you, if you put these in front of a child and actually use them and model how to use these, she will pick up very quickly.
Can you make one for my wife so she can,
No, but she can go to Canada and make them.
she can get the choices?
We also have a visual support called a task analysis. You can make a task analysis for anything, for what they have to accomplish to wash their body in the bathtub or shower, to how to actually take a shower. You take your clothes off, you get in the shower, you wash your hair and body, you dry off, you put your clothes back on, hand washing, brushing your teeth. You can literally make one for anything. If you want your child to start being more independent in the kitchen and maybe they love PB&J sandwiches, make a task analysis for that. That helps eliminate mom and dad from the equation. You can step out. Independence is so important, but it can also help a lot with behavior because as kids get older, they want that freedom from us parents. They want that independence. They're going to feel confident. They're going to feel accomplished when they can get through something successfully. Just like you and I, when we complete a task, it's like, yes, first of all, we're done with it. And it feels good. We were successful. We did it. So like I said, you can make a task analysis for anything. Now, when it comes to where do I start with using visual supports, I almost always recommend a visual schedule. I showed you the list of benefits earlier, but I think the visual schedule is the one that hits most of the benefits out there for creating visual rich environment. What I would do when I implement a visual schedule at home is I would start with one routine. Find the easiest routine in your day. If bedtime routine is the easiest, that's where I'm going to start with a new support. I'm going to make it as easy as possible on me and the child. Because if it's really hard and you feel like we're going uphill, we're eventually probably going to throw in the towel. So we need to make it manageable on adults and children. I also recommend including preferred activities. When you see your to-do list and it's full of these big non-preferred tasks, you're probably procrastinating. You're doing everything but looking at this list. You're dragging your feet getting through it, and you have nothing to look forward to throughout the day. You don't want that. We want your children to honestly enjoy their day. We want them to have fun. We want them to love life. Show them what they have to look forward to. Include things that they like. No child is going to get started on a routine full of all non-preferred activities, because you wouldn't do that either. Also, give them a say. So let's say this is their bedtime. All these activities have to be done during their bedtime routine. But, you don't really care about the order. The only one that matters is go to sleep. That should be the last one. So maybe you, the parent, you Velcro this one on, go to sleep. All these other ones, maybe you lay them out to the side and you say, hey, you build the order. What do you want to do first? So maybe they pick trampoline. And then they pick the snack. And then, okay, so maybe brushing teeth has to be put on by parents too, because we can't eat after we brush. But what I'm trying to say is we can give them some power, some control, some say, which directly helps behavior for those kids that have those power struggles. And they're fighting us because they want to be in control. We can give them some control with the visual. Of course, like I've said this whole time, model, model, model. I do not want you to set this in front of a child and just say, go at it. I have so many people that they really honestly think that you just sit this in front of a visual support in front of an autistic child and they think autism and visual supports, they go hand in hand. And I'm like, what? They're brand new tools. This is foreign to your child. Like we can't just, not every autistic child knows what these are. So the teaching has to happen, and I recommend it happens through modeling. And then after you spend time modeling, then of course you're going to encourage engagement. You're going to encourage things like, okay, show me what's next. And maybe that's them pointing to what's next. That's engagement. Or maybe you finish snacks, so you take the Velcro piece off and you hand it to them and say, hey, where do we put it now? And they Velcro it on with all done site. So we want to eventually, after we model for a couple of days, encourage that engagement. Okay, I spoke right. Okay, 1 minute. I'm not a lot of time for Q&A. But does anybody have any questions about getting started with visuals? That was a lot of information. No? I will say a few tips if you do decide to make visuals. Some things that I love to do. First is dots, Velcro dots. I recommend using Velcro dots instead of the Velcro strips. You can get these anywhere like Amazon, any Office Depot or office supply store like that. The reason I love them is because they're the same size every single time. There's no cutting. You know, if you had the Velcro strips and you're cutting all these little squares, the sizes are a little different every time. Your scissors get that gunk and glue all over, which is impossible to get off. These are consistent, the same size every time. And then I store all of mine in an accordion folder because you have all these pieces and you're like, oh, this is a mess, what do I do? So I have a section for schedules, communication, bathroom, social stories, choice boards. You can organize it however you want, but this is a great way for, you know, if I'm like, oh, where is that, blah, 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 that social story for washing hands, I know to find this, go to the bathroom section, and there it is. So this is a great organization tool.
So I have a quick question. It's related in all way. So like, what if, you know, the child that you have or whatever you're involved with, it has like anticipation, like they're aggravated about anticipating, like, okay, what's next? What are you gonna ask me to do? Like, how would you, on like a visual board, just to avoid,
Like on a visual schedule.
sorry, on a visual schedule, like, how would you avoid, like, okay, like, we're transitioning tasks, like, how would you avoid trying to agitate unintentionally? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so they give me an example of an activity that's coming up that they don't want to do. I'm assuming it's a student you're talking about.
It's more like, I was thinking like in the eighth grade game, he was like, waiting for you to be downstairs more.
Oh, so like anticipating an enemy, so.
I'm just the caregiver, like the babysitter, so like, I'm involved.
What was the demand?
Oh, sorry, so.
Oh, yes.
No, you're fine.
Um,
Just the more I know, the better.
So I don't know
I
the
can
answer
answer
to
that.
Well, I think it's because he didn't have a schedule.
Okay.
So if he sees what's going on, it is, he would know what's next.
Yeah. And you also